Chapter 28, Weapons Hall. When the next morning had arrived, Quinn made sure to pack some things with him in his bag. He put in the blood tube that contained Layla's blood, the 4 remaining empty tubes, and also the mask that he had bought at the convenience store. He never knew when a situation would come up when he had to use these things, so it was better to be prepared than unprepared. The 3 boys headed down for breakfast as a group as usual, and like always people would give Quinn, Vorden and Peter looks. Vorden decided to split form Quinn and Peter and sat on his own on the higher power level tables. But even then, no one seemed to be sitting next to Vorden. It was clear for some reason the second-year students were making Vorden a target, even though he was no longer hanging out with Quinn and Peter. "Do me a favor, will you?" Quinn asked. "Keep an eye on Vorden while you're in your combat classes today. If anything happens, let me know. But if something happens, I won't be strong enough to help, and you can't exactly do anything either," Peter replied. Peter was right. Quinn right now could barely deal with the level 2 first-year students, never mind the second-year students. But at the same time, Quinn hated the fact that they might be targeting Vorden just because he chose to hang out with them. Perhaps Quinn could find a weak one in the group and target him at night for questioning. These groups always had a weak person acting as a shuttle for them, asking them to carry their things, grab their food for them, etc. "I'm not telling you to get invileveled. I don't think Vorden is expecting you to help him out either, but just to let me know what you see." Peter then gave a quick look around the room to make sure no one was hearing the 2 of them before giving a nod. Finally, after finishing their breakfast, it was time for their combat classes. After registering what type of class you wanted to attend via the watch, it would then indicate what room you would be in for training that day. Quinn had chosen the Beast Weapons class after thinking long and hard. Quinn was known as a no-ability user, so it was really the only option for him. Otherwise, he would have to just sit back at the back of the other classes and do nothing. The weapon class was popular among those that had an ability that was able to enhance it. Those who could slightly see the future, or had a telekinesis ability like Layla, would attend these classes. But Quinn wanted to find a weapon that would suit him and his fighting style. The weapons hall was away from the main school building and off to the side in its own separate building. It was a single large one-room building that had an Asian palace feeling to it. To enter the building, students needed to scan their watch into the scanner, and then the 2 large doors would slide open. Although the outside of the building had an Eastern feeling to it, the inside was completely different. It was a large room where the ceiling was about 20 meters high. The room had no decorations apart from mountains and mountain of weapons hung up on the wall, and in the center of the room was a round raised platform. Standing at the back of the hall was a bald-headed man wearing leather armor and had a long katana blade by his side. But the katana blade hilt was jagged and rough, and the back of the blade the same. It looked like it had been forged from an animal that was not of this planet. The man remained silent at the back with his eyes closed. Quinn could only assume the man was their teacher, being the oldest one in the room. The room slowly started to fill up with students, and that's when Layla had entered and spotted Quinn. She immediately came over to him and started chatting. Unlike when Vorden had spoken to Quinn, the other students didn't really pay attention because Layla herself was also considered weak. "This class is a lot more popular than I thought," Layla said. The room was filled with about 30 students inside. The other classes had around 50, but it was still more than they had expected. "Yeah, I wonder what weapon I should pick," Quinn said, staring at the wall. "Well, I already have mine," Layla said, pointing to her bow on her back. A lot of the students in the room already had weapons of their own. Quinn and a couple of others were the only ones who didn't have anything on them. Just then, while Quinn was busy staring at the wall, the other students started to get rowdy as someone entered the weapons hall. "What is she doing here? Isn't she an elemental user? Why would she be here? Who cares? Maybe we can spare with her, and if we beat her we can ask her on a date." As Quinn turned around to see who the girl was everyone was talking about, it turns out he had already met her before. It was Erin Hala, the ice ability user. I wonder why she decided to go to this class instead of the elemental class. Layla asked. Just then the bald-headed man opened his eyes and shouted at the top of his voice. Attention! Everyone froze and turned to look at the old man. My name is Leo and I will be your teacher for today. Leo then pulled out his katana blade from his sheath and pointed it out in front of him. Your first task will be to pick your weapon. You must think carefully. Your weapon is your lifeline. When your ability won't work, the only thing you can rely on is your own skills. Now go and choose one from the wall around you. The students fanned out and started to look at weapons. Even those who had beast weapons already were trying out new ones. Quinn looked at the wall and saw all sorts of things: axes, short swords, spiked clubs, whips, scythes. There was so much to choose from. Quinn was really having a hard time. Quinn looked at Layla and her bow. It matched up well with her telekinesis ability. If Quinn was to pick a ranged weapon, he would never be able to be as good as Layla. He needed something that suited him right now in his ability. Quinn then walked up to one of the random swords on the wall and used his inspect skill. Korga sword, tier basic beast weapon, strength +3, agility -2. The sword incompatible with the skill, blood swipe. The sword Quinn looked at was large in size and looked heavy. Quinn needed to be fast, so losing some points in agility was a definite no-no. But what surprised him was how much information his inspect skill had given him. It even told him if his blood swipe could be used with it. Maybe it wouldn't be so hard picking out a weapon after all, thanks to Quinn's inspect skill.